Hi there. I bet you didn't expect me. My name is Jennifer Biehn, and I am Michael Bihn's wife and business partner. Hi. And I'm here in his place. No, I'm just kidding. So I just came out for a quick second to tell you about something, and he may talk about it more, or you can just come see us and sign up, which we would prefer. We have a new fan site. It's called The Biehn Basement, thebbasement.com. This is the coolest shit ever. You need to go there and you need to join. We don't spam, we don't give your stuff away, we don't do anything like that. All we do is keep it for ourselves and then update you personally through us and our staff on what's going on with us. And it is going to become the most interactive, soon-to-be subscription site, also fan site, also interactive, where you can talk to me, Michael, and all the stars of all of our upcoming movies at Biehn Productions. So in the next year, you're going to be able to monthly be on live chats, online, face-to-face. So join, and now I'm going to bring out Claire Kramer. Thank you.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Emerald City Comic Con 2014! Woo! I'm so happy to see so many people here in the main hall. I know it's the first event of the weekend. Yay! Are you guys ready for a good weekend and a good lineup of panelists? Yeah, when they contacted me about doing the main hall stuff, I looked through everybody and I'm like, I can't pick. I have to moderate every single one of these people because I am so interested. So we're gonna have an awesome weekend. I'm so glad everyone's here, and hopefully Seattle will cooperate with not too much rain. We'll see. Regardless, our first panelist I'm personally a big fan of. I have been an admirer of his work for a long time. He, of course, is the man who made the line, "Come with me if you want to live," famous. Please welcome Mr. Michael Biehn! Come on out! Please join me on the couches, Michael. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah.
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
That's a good answer. First of all, it's such my pleasure to meet you. I'm a big fan. Absolutely loved so many of your performances. I want to touch a little bit on as many as we can. But through Kyle Reese and your other characters, you're known for the tough guy. You're like the, almost the machine. Are you really that person, Michael?
No.
Are you one of us?
I'm not really. Actually, I'm really very unathletic and weak.
I don't believe that.
No, it's true. I don't think I've ever won an arm wrestling match in my life.
Well,
and that includes with women. Like chin-ups, some guys are just basically strong, they go up to
right.
a pull-up bar and they pull off 15. I can do 2.
Right.
So, when I was younger, I used to lift weights and kind of sculpt my body a little bit to look good. So I look good. I look like an athlete, but I'm not really per se an athlete. And I definitely would be probably during the Vietnam War be in Canada.
Yeah, well, fortunately you didn't have to make that choice. But that's really interesting. What do you think initially at the start of your career, why do you think people saw you in this light? And why do you think James Cameron saw you as such this strong, militant type?
Jim told me that the reason that he cast me, well, not the reason that he cast me, but one of the reasons that he cast me is that I did a movie many years ago, and I think it was around 80 or so, and it was called The Fan. Uh-huh. And I chased around.
There you go.
I chased around Lauren Bacall in it, and the thing about that movie was, I was supposed to look like this sweet guy, mm-hmm. and nice guy, and I was young and very kind of naive looking, and I turned out to be this real monster. And he saw the movie, and he liked the idea because he knew in his movie he wanted this guy to look like he was badass, and that he was going after her, and it wasn't until Tech Noir that you found out, come with me if you want to live.
Right.
Up until that point, he wanted the audience to think, oh, fuck, she better stay away from that guy, because he looks so bad. That was one of the things that he mentioned. But I went in and auditioned with him and Linda and a few other actresses, and the rest is like incredible.
That's interesting. What as an actor, there's so many different processes to getting a role. Like sometimes it's really easy, sometimes it's really difficult. What was it like, meeting Jim and going in and working with Linda and everything? What was the audition process like?
Well, actually, I went to Gail Hurd's house. Gail had a house, and she's the producer of the film, and Jim's second wife, I think, third. I don't know.
I think Linda was three. So
Linda
maybe,
was three. Yeah,
Linda
she was
three,
two.
Yeah.
I was
Not that we're counting anyone.
I was with Gail and Jim before they got married, and when we did Terminator, when we did Aliens, then they were married, and then we did The Abyss together, and they were divorced.
And that was not happening anymore.
I kind of covered the spectrum as far as Gail goes, but I love Gail, and of course she's working on The Walking Dead now, and she's great. What was the question?
You went to her house, which
Yeah. I went to the house, and it was your basic audition, really. I had just come from a audition of Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, and when I went in to read, I guess there was a little bit of a southern accent that I had kind of left over from because when I was going through the Cat on a Hot Tin Roof audition, it just kind of stuck with me. And so Jim called my agents and said, we really like Michael, but that's that kind of that regional thing going on. And they were like, what are you talking about? And he said, well, he's from the South. No, he's not from the South. He's from Nebraska.
He's just doing Tennessee Williams right now.
Yeah. So that cleared up, and I went back in, and it was I can tell you about some strange interviews that I've had, some really wild ones. But this was pretty traditional, and at the time too, I didn't really give a shit. Everybody always thinks, and I always talk about this, it's like the Terminator, like 30 years later, and I always mention, that and my agent called me up and they said, we want you to go meet this guy named Jim Cameron, and he's got a movie called The Terminator. And I'm like, okay, is anybody in it? And they said, yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger's in it. And I was like, oh, fuck. Because at that time, Arnold Schwarzenegger was not the Arnold Schwarzenegger that we know at all. And he was considered, he had done Conan. And, nobody thought he could speak English. Nobody ever thought he would ever, become a movie star. Nobody ever thought he'd become a governor. And a
lot of surprises with Arnie.
And still not be able to say the name of the state. I got to give it to him. And so, being cast in a movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger at that time in my career was not like, oh, Robert De Niro, oh, Pacino,
right.
Great, Jack Nicholson, oh, fucking awesome. It's like, yeah. So I said, okay, well, all right, well, that's one strike against it. Who's this Jim Cameron guy? And they said, well, he's this guy, and I said, well, has he ever done anything before? Well, he works a lot with Roger Corman. And I was like, Roger Corman is kind of known for like these B movies and stuff. He did Piranha 3, but actually he got fired off Piranha 3, and I'm like, oh.
Like, this is not sounding favorable.
And who's the producer on it? Gail Hurd. And what's she done? Oh, she works a lot with Roger Corman too. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, what is this about? Well, it's about this man. Well, actually, it's about this man who travels through the future because he's following a machine that's traveled through the future who's trying to kill this woman. I'm like, oh, this just sounds fucking terrible, you know. So when I went in there and met Jim and Gail, it wasn't like I was really nervous.
Right.
And it wasn't like I was going in for a role that everybody in town wanted.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I don't think anybody wanted it.
You know what?
I think that's why I got cast, to tell you the truth.
Sometimes the interesting thing is the scripts that you read that you're like, oh, this is the most amazing script. I love it. I want to do this so badly. And then you see the final product and you're like, oh. And then the scripts where you don't really know, like you're in,
Well,
you
and
know.
also I did read the script, and I thought the script was good, but still it was silly.
Right.
You know, I mean, it was, if you think in lesser hands
Right.
than Jim Cameron, and you think about the visual effects, and if some hack had done that, it would have just been terrible.
Absolutely.
It would have just been terrible. So, but what happened was I met Jim, and then Arnold got picked up his for Conan, and I got to spend about 3 months, went down to Stan Winston's studio, and I saw everything that Stan Winston had done, the late, great Stan Winston, who's won 8 Academy Awards. Spielberg, works with everybody. Yeah, he's a fantastic guy. Really, really wonderful man. And I got to saw the drawings, and I saw the way they were making the Terminator, and I went out with Jim, and we shot together, and he showed me how to hotwire cars, and like we started having a lot of fun together, and I could see and start to understand at that point that at least it wasn't going to be an embarrassment, that this guy, and he was so passionate, and I'm kind of passionate too, and so we at that point, I was certainly ready to give it a go, and then they cast Linda, and I thought, I'm definitely in.
Yeah. We're going to take our first Twitter question here.
All right,
Okay.
all right.
It ties in pretty nicely. This is from @FanGeeker. And @FanGeeker says, when you first read the script for Terminator, did you sense the kind of impact it would still have on science fiction 30 years later?
No. Yeah. No, what? I mean, there's like, there's Blade Runner, there's, no, not at all. I mean, this is Aliens, Blade Runner, Terminator. I mean, these are movies that are like, I was so lucky to have met Jim. And I always say this, and people always go like, oh, no, that's not true. You would have made it the greatest. But there would have been somebody else that would have played that role of Kyle Reese, and it still would have been a fucking good movie, And the same thing with Aliens and so on and so forth. What was the question?
Did you know the impact it would have 30 years later?
No,
But I think that's a good answer.
No idea. No idea at all. I mean, you never have any idea of the impact that it was going to have. And I've been in some good movies too also, but Aliens, the Terminator, and a movie I did called Tombstone have now...
Woo!
Those 3 movies have like jumped generations to where I cannot tell you. I have more fans that are in their 20s than I do that are in their 50s, because they're like, hi, my name is Kyle Smith, yeah, my dad named me after you, all the time. I mean, all the time. And I have so many young people that weren't born when we made those movies.
Right.
They were 10 years away from being born when we made the movies. So, and what happened is they got a hold of the VHSs of their parents, and they saw the VHSs, and kind of grew up on them, and so it's been like never in a million. And you can never predict that. There's you could never predict a movie that is going to be even good, even open well at the box office. Everybody hopes their movie does well. Everybody hopes it's going to be a classic, but you never know. But I just happen to have been lucky enough to work with Jim, and have a very good part in Tombstone too. Because I mean, I've made a lot of movies, and a lot of them I'm very proud of. But for some reason, and the reason really is Jim Cameron, and the fact that I spin a gun so well that
Yeah.
those three are.
Let's have, if anyone has questions, you can start to line up at the mic. And while they're doing that, let's talk for a second about Tombstone. Such a great movie, ensemble cast. What was the experience like on that set?
Well, Tombstone was a kind of an odd movie because the writer-director of the movie got fired 4 weeks into the movie. And the late, great Jim Jacks, was a producer, and had to kind of decide. We had like a 131-page script, and he had to make it about a 90-page script. So he and Kurt Russell, I think, and DeVal actually got together, and they decided what was going to stay and what was going to go.
Wow.
And they turned that movie into something that was much grayer. I mean, the Earps were really not that great of guys. I hate to tell you, but they were not fucking that great. And the Cowboys weren't that bad of guys either, you know. And but they took it and made it more of a good guys, bad guys movie. And it was a great, great movie to work on because of the cast.
Right.
I mean, if you look at that cast and you go down the list, I mean, there's Academy Award winners that have like 2 lines in that movie, you know, and they're like Thomas Hayden Church for one, and you know, Paxton's in it. And,
No, it's literally
you know,
a movie that everyone's in.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a great cast.
Yeah, it was a great cast and fun, and we had a lot of fun shooting it, and I had a lot of fun with the gun. And Val and I spent a lot of time together, kind of working on that last gunfight scene, and we would go off and while they were shooting and practice how we wanted to do that, because after Jeff, what was his name? Can't think of his name right at the moment. Got fired. They brought in a director named George Cosmatos, who was known for what a great visual style he had done. He did Cobra and Leviathan in some movies, and but he didn't know anything about the story. He had no idea what he was shooting. You know, he just knew he was shooting something, but he didn't. You know. And so Val and I worked really hard. We decided to do that gunfight up close instead of the usual, you know, and kind of do that roundy. And so that whole thing was really, really, practiced right down to the T. And so I was real proud of that. All right, Lunger, let's do it. You know.
Yeah, it was an amazing movie. Amazing. Let's go over here to this mic.
I just recently discovered K2, which was the mountain climbing film you did. Now you're saying you're not an athletic person. How much of your own stunt work did you do in that film?
All right, well, imagine this. All right? This is the camera. All right? This is the camera.
And that is the magic of Hollywood.
Thank you.
Excellent demonstration, Michael. Excellent. Yes, over here.
Hello.
Hi.
Huge fan. Thank you so much for coming out here to Seattle. We really
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it. So yeah, I definitely fall into that bracket of 20 to 30 of people who discovered you.
Is your name Kyle?
My name's not Kyle. I'm Eric. But I wanted to ask about The Rock, because that was that was a big that was a big formative action movie for me growing up, and you had a cool role in that as the head Marine, and I will not give that order and all that stuff, and that was awesome. So just wanted to ask about that movie. How crazy was it filming? Did you really film on Alcatraz? Any stories about Michael Bay or Sean
Yeah,
Connery?
well, first of all, I met Michael. Michael offered me the role, and I went to Alcatraz. The part that I shot was shot in Los Angeles. They did a lot of shooting up in Alcatraz, but I did not shoot in Alcatraz. And I like working with Michael. I love Michael. He's there's like Jim Cameron, Billy Friedkin, him, Val Kilmer. I mean, everybody's got this reputation for being like so you know, like so mean and nasty and stuff, you know. And like when I did this movie Grindhouse with Quentin Tarantino and
Yeah.
with Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez, and I kind of got this idea. Well, maybe I'll just go out just for the fun of it and do a little Grindhouse movie myself. And you like take Jim Cameron and let me see, Cameron, Val, and you could take every director that I probably worked with that is considered like you've heard is bad, and roll them all together, Billy Friedkin, and they wouldn't have been as bad as I was on that set. Me screaming at people and so on and so forth. You know. It's like I had a great time working on that movie, mostly because of Sean Connery. I mean, getting the chance to actually kind of really meet and hang out with Sean Connery was really fun. And again, Michael Bay is like such a great talent, you know. And one of the reasons why, you know, as you get older, you know, you want to be an actor and you want to be, you want to, play these roles and whatever. And after you've done it, you know you can do it. And you know, after a while, it just gets to be fun to stand around and watch somebody like Michael Bay work or like Jim Cameron work. I was up and I think relatively close to playing the role that Stephen Lang played in Avatar. And Stephen Lang, who happened to be in Tombstone also. And, you know, I wanted to play that role pretty badly, but it wasn't so much that I really wanted to, you know, I knew I could have done a great job with that role, but at the same time, being on the set with Jim Cameron for 3 months is like, you know, being at war with Patton, you know, for 3 months, you know, and by his side. And that's really the fun thing for me now, if I get a chance, working with these guys, is I have all the confidence in the world in myself, you know. And so it's not about that. It's not about me trying to prove myself anymore. It's about me watching. And, you know, after I did The Victim, we had so much fun doing that. And the thing about being an actor, the one thing is that you don't have final say. So you don't get to, you know, cast the girl that they're going to play against you, and you know, if some dialogue doesn't make any sense, you'll say to the director, well, this doesn't make any sense, you know, at all. I don't know why I would say that, you know. It's a boy, and I call her a her, and he's just say it anyway. But it doesn't make any, just say it anyway, you know. And there was a lot of that going on in my career. So we started this little company, and after I did The Victim, and it's nice to be the boss. You know, it's nice to be the guy who basically says yes and no to people's ideas. And when I have an idea, that I think is good, and actually the company itself is called Biehn Productions. It's really Jennifer. I mean, it's not me. I don't do anything. Basically, they could take like a canvas or a cardboard cutout of me, you know, and just kind of stand me on the set over in the corner, and then we could shoot the whole thing that way, you know, with me just kind of overlooking everybody like this. And but she more than anything else, I mean, she's always on the computer. We've got Hidden in the Woods, which is we've got about 5 movies that are in post-production, and we've got another one that was just announced. One of them just got a review today.
On Ain't It Cool News, right?
On Ain't It Cool News, yeah. Just got a review today, real nice little review. And it's a genre. I mean, it's a cheap. It's made for not very much money, but there's no zombies. There's no. I mean, when I made The Victim, I was like, all right, I don't have any money, so like, what am I gonna, you know? And I thought, like, okay, well, what do people like to see? And I thought, okay, well, sex. So I asked, you know, Jennifer if she'd get naked, and you saw her, and so she said yes, and I thought, okay, great. And And I said, do you have any friends who get naked too? And she said yes. So Danielle Harris came on, and so I had the sex down. And then I thought like dirty cops and drugs, and I had a little bit of violence, and I had enough money to do a little bit of action. And I thought, well, fuck it, I'll just throw in a serial killer. And I wrote it in like 2 weeks, and then we shot that in 12 days. We shot that in 12 days. It took 12 weeks to shoot the Terminator. And the Terminator at that time was considered a low-budget movie. But now with all these different cameras and stuff, you can make a pretty decent little movie, you know, in a very short period of time. So now it's fun. So I thought I was going to make this movie, and I thought, like, if people liked it, then like I'd get my next shot up and maybe get to make a $5 million movie or something like that. But as it turned out, we realized that we actually could make them for less money. So now we've made them for less money, and Hidden in the Woods is less. And but we've got one that we just signed up. I think it came out in the trades yesterday, day before yesterday, called Fembot, which is basically about this guy, and he's lost his wife, and he's trying to replace her, and it's a little bit in the future, and he's got his choice between these robot women, and he tries out a few, and he they don't seem to quite work out for him, and he finally finds one that he really likes, and he's really happy, and he's just really content until he meets a human woman who he's kind of taken with, and starts to show her attention, at which point the Fembot is
gone.
The Fembot becomes there's a whole backstory of how they were not put together correctly, and that's why this Fembot, this woman machine, has feelings, and just a little grindhouse movie, but I think that's going to be a lot of fun too. So we're doing a lot of these little movies. I answered your question, didn't I? All right.
Well, I do hear you though. When you get in the position of writing, directing, producing, you get to put your thumbprint, your artistic thumbprint, on the whole project. As opposed to when you were saying when you're acting, it's just your performance that you're in control of.
Yeah, and when you think about if you meet somebody and they go what do you do? And they go, oh, I direct television. Oh, you're a director? Really? Yeah. What do you direct? Oh, CSI Miami, that kind of stuff. Really? Oh, great. Well, that's good, but he doesn't get to pick his cast. He doesn't get to pick his music. He's not in any of the post-production where all the colorization and where he doesn't cut the movie. He doesn't edit the movie or his TV show himself. That's all he does is do the shooting. So it's not the same as being a director on a movie where you actually are able to direct the whole film and then go cut it yourself, then put the music you want on top of it and colorize it and so on and so forth. It's a really fun experience when you can do it yourself.
Yes, absolutely. Let's go over here.
Hello, Michael. Thank you for being out here today.
You bet.
Big fan of yours. You're pretty much the reason why I wanted to come to this event this year. So
He is awesome.
That's nice. That's really nice that you say that. Thank you.
I had 2 questions for you.
Yeah.
First of which is, ever since the Expendables came out, I was wondering, when are they going to throw you in there? Is there any odds of getting you in that film?
No.
No? No.
Here's the deal. First of all, if anybody has a chance, has anybody seen the documentary on Sylvester Stallone making that movie?
I have.
It's unbelievable, the passion that he has. He had 48 days to make that movie. He was writing it. Of course, he directed it. He was doing all his own stunts. He was doing all his own fighting. And if you watch that movie, you'll have respect for Sylvester Stallone for the rest of your life. The thing about that is, I'm not really, I'm financially kind of set, and I there's not really any reason for me to go do a movie where I go, oh, he's up there, he's over there. All right, see anybody? No, all right. That's, and it's kind of what those characters are, It's not exactly a lot of character development, and there's really no, I mean, what's the point? I could go out and make some money doing it, and I'd like to meet Arnold. I would like to meet Arnold and tell him how much I enjoyed and how passionate he was, and I have a lot of respect for him, but let's just say there isn't enough character development, and I've already done at least 2, or if you count Tombstone as 3, it's it's going to be a race to the end for me to find another movie as good as those 3 to be in.
Yeah.
And since I don't need to do it, what's the point of going to El Salvador and be away from my family? I've got 4 young boys, and they're kind of in the film industry a little bit here and there. One works for Adam Carolla, and the other one's working with us, and another one's, well, he's a banker, but anyway, but.
He's in the best part of the film industry.
Yeah, he's gonna fund our movies. What's the next question?
Yeah.
I was just curious if you could talk about that film that's coming out here soon, Tapped Out. I'm a big Anderson Silva fan and saw that you're in it. Don't know too much about it.
Well, Tapped Out is basically a movie which about MMA fighting, and it goes kind of along the lines of the Karate Kid. I play Mr. Miyagi, light character, and if you're an MMA guy, I think you'll like it. I don't know what's going on when they're going to release it and how it's going to get released. I had a lot of fun shooting it. We shot it up in Canada, in a place called London, Canada, and it was fun for me because I got to hang around with all the guys that when I said I was this kind of skinny little these guys are the real McCoy, and actually we've used a couple of them in our movies since then, and the guy who, I forget his name, the guy who plays the bad guy in it is I was down on the cage. And my fighter was here, and I'm Mr. Miyagi's, that character. And they say, all right, fight. And this guy comes charging across the ring, and he's 6'2", about 235, just ripped, and his face is muscling. And I was just that sport. And man, yeah, I was scared standing on the other side of the cage, knowing that I was acting on a Hollywood movie set. So I'm not sure when it's going to come out. I'm sure you can, follow it on
Twitter.
Twitter or whatever. Yeah. So, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hey, just wanted to say thanks again for being here, like everybody else. I was wondering if you could talk about what it was like working with Friedkin, and I was also wondering what major takeaways you had working with all these heavy hitter directors that you put into your own projects and your own The Victim and so forth.
Yeah, great question. Now that you're directing, what's the takeaway?
Well, I think with everybody, it's passion. None of those guys are out there just doing a job. They want it done. They want it done right, and they want it done. You take a guy like Billy Friedkin, okay, and you look at The French Connection. Probably the best car chase in the history of filmmaking. Some people can argue Bullet, but that car chase that he did with Roy Scheider is the greatest car chase of all time, and I think he made the scariest movie of all time also, he's difficult to work with. He's a little bit of a madman at times. He can be intimidating. I think he likes to create, you do The Exorcist, you're not going to have a lighthearted set, but, off the set, he's just as fun as can be. But when you get on the set with him, you better be on your toes, and the same with Cameron, and the same with Michael Bay. I mean, you just don't walk onto their sets hey, what's going on? What are we shooting today? It just is not like that, Friedkin probably more than anybody else, because I grew up with Jim. I mean, to a certain extent, in the movie business, we did our first movies together, you know. So Jim was like, people always say, yeah, Jim, I hear he's really bad and he's really tough. First of all, I've never heard him raise his voice on a set unless he's yelling like, I need something done over here. I've never heard him yell at anybody or whatever. And I always say the worst thing he ever said to me was after a take was like, that's exactly how I don't want it, you know. And I said, well, Jim, everybody knows that you can do everybody else's job on this set better than them, but you can't fucking act, can you? So you give me a line reading, and I'll go ahead and do it. I have a lot of fun with that and with Jim, and I thank God for Jim because you know, he really made my career. But when you work with guys like Friedkin and Michael Bay and Jim Cameron and Robert Rodriguez is a guy I haven't talked about at all up here tonight, and Quentin Tarantino. And I'm sorry that we're running out of time, but Robert Rodriguez is just one of the most amazing people to be around that you can imagine, and what he's done with film, and the way he shoots film, and his love of film, and Quentin Tarantino, both of them. I mean, having them both on the set of Grindhouse, Quentin was doing second camera, and Robert was trying to get him to shoot and prove to him that he could shoot his movie in not on film, which he didn't do. But to have those guys, I mean, these are like, and you know, sitting in between them, I mean, they breathe film. They don't even talk about anything. I mean, you know, it can be the Super Bowl, you know, and they're talking about some film that was shot back in the, you know, like they just love movies. And to watch, you know, I'll give you an example. I mean, of like working with Robert. You do a scene. Sometimes there's like, let's say 8 shots in a scene, okay? So you have a master, then you come in and you have like a 2-shot, and then you have a 2-shot over here, a couple of singles, single, and extreme close-up, and then, you know, so what he would do is he would be on the set, and he'd have his editors on the set also. So he'd shoot the first shot, and he'd get a shot he liked. Then he'd shoot the second shot. And while he was shooting the second shot and setting up for the third shot, they'd take the second shot and edit it to the first shot, and then his pick at that moment. And then while you were working on the fourth shot, the third, and so on and so forth. So by the time you finished that scene on the set, he already had this shot, he already had it cut together. Then he took source music, which he had, you know, on his thing. He'd take some music, which he thought was right for the scene, throw it on underneath, and say, this is what you're going to see on a movie screen. And goddamn it, when you go to the movies, that was exactly what I saw, you know. And so
that's incredible.
Yeah,
I'm a huge fan of his anyway. I was influenced by his first book, you know, Rebel Without a Crew, and just an amazing.
Well, I give a shout out to him a lot, mostly a lot. I mean, if you see a lot of the early press that I did on The Victim, I mean, it's all Robert. I mean, Robert is the guy. Everybody always says to me, "Well, like, how do you get into movies? How do you pick up a fucking camera, point it at somebody, and start rolling?" You know, write a story. You know, camera these days. I mean, you can get a used 5D for like $500 or $600, and you know. Robert's whole thing was just do it. I mean, and then one of the things that Jim Cameron told me and said to me about Robert Rodriguez is he said one of the brilliant things about Robert is that he just doesn't understand that he can't do it, that he can't do something. He doesn't understand that concept. It doesn't enter his head. And that's one of the reasons why he's so successful. And working with him, he's just a big, good-looking. He's the kind of guy you want to. He would have been like the cool jock, and even though he's not an athlete, he's just the coolest kid around. You know, he really is. I really, really, really care for him. He's got his own network now. I don't know if you've read about that. and he's got Robert Patrick playing From Dusk Till Dawn. They're remaking that as a television series, and I think that's one of the first things they're doing.
I'm so excited for that.
Yeah,
I can't wait.
He's unbelievable. He's great. He's great. And Quentin, by the way, too, he's just a giggling. Just so much fun. Both of them are. I mean, working on that movie was so much fun. And Josh Brolin is also a lot of fun too. But I had so much fun working with those two directors. They're different. They're different. They get like Ron Howard, for instance. He's not running around yelling at people and all, and he gets what he wants. And he's a wonderful, wonderful director also. And Robert and Quentin don't have that same intensity. One of the reasons I think that Friedkin likes that intensity on this set, where everybody's like on their toes, like, oh my God, is because I think he thinks that kind of rubs off the set onto the film. I really believe he thinks that, because his sets are really intense, and his movies are too. And but those two guys, that I mentioned, and I was talking with the directors I worked with, and I kind of forgot about those two guys for some reason. And those are two of our finest directors of the. I mean, I've just been very, very lucky, and you wonder why I've been successful. It's not me. I'm good. There's a lot of good actors out there, and as a matter of fact, he cast Robert Patrick instead of me for From Dusk Till Dawn. So anyway, it's those directors. Those directors and they're all just fantastic people, and so motivated, and so passionate.
Well, I hate to say this, but we are out of time. I apologize to everyone. But you've been so interesting, we haven't gotten to too many questions. Michael, where can people find you online? Where can they keep up with what you're doing?
I don't know.
All right, well, I do. Your Twitter is your name, and then, of course, your wife has a whole slew of places where people can find you. The website she was talking about, the bbasement.com.
Right,
so that's probably the best place to start. And I can't tell you what a pleasure it has been to kick off the weekend with Mr. Michael Biehn.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.